$36 trillion. If you decided to pay off the United States national debt at a rate of $1 every single second, and you started right now, it would take you over 1,000,000 years to finish. You see this number everywhere. It's often used as proof that the country is teetering on the edge of ruin, warning that the nation is heading for bankruptcy and leaving future generations with an impossible bill. It raises a logical question. If you or I ran our household finances this way, borrowing more every month just to pay the interest on our old loans, we would lose everything. So why hasn't the United States economy collapsed under this weight? Much of the panic stems from a common misunderstanding. A country does not operate like a household, and sovereign finance follows a very different set of rules. To understand those rules, we have to separate the deficit from the debt. Think of it like a credit card statement. This chart shows the deficit. The government collects taxes and spends money to keep the country running. When the spending bar rises above the revenue bar in a single year, the gap between the two is the deficit. It's the new balance added to the card this month. The national debt is the cumulative total of all those annual deficits stacked together over time. Every year the government spends more than it takes in, the total debt balance grows. If you look at when these stacks get significantly taller, they often align with national emergencies. The debt climbed in 2008 when the government stepped in to stop the financial crisis, and it rose again in 2020 to fund pandemic relief and keep businesses afloat. The debt functions as a historical ledger. It records the moments the United States chose to borrow through a crisis, rather than letting the economy stop in its tracks. There is a widespread assumption that this $36 trillion balance belongs to foreign adversaries, that we owe most of it to countries like China. This chart shows who actually owns that debt. China's slice accounts for less than 3%. Broken down further, the 75% domestic slice belongs to American investors, the Federal Reserve, and government accounts like Social Security. The government borrows this money by issuing Treasury securities. Regular citizens, retirement funds, and local banks buy these bonds because they are seen as the safest place to put money. The United States isn't deeply indebted to a foreign bank. For the most part, the country owes this money to its own citizens and its own safety nets. If owing the money to ourselves doesn't cause an immediate crisis, we have to look at what the actual danger is right now. The pressure comes from interest. For years, interest rates were near zero, which made borrowing almost free. But as rates have risen, the government has to replace old, cheap bonds with new ones that carry much higher interest payments. In 2024, net interest paid reached nearly $900 billion, larger than the entire United States defense budget. And this burden grows. By 2034, projections show interest will consume a quarter of all federal revenue, leaving less room for things like education and infrastructure. The massive national debt acts as a steady drain on the government's ability to pay for anything else. Every dollar spent on interest is a dollar that cannot be used to invest back into the country. How does a country manage a hole this deep? In rare cases, a nation might simply stop paying or default. This happened in Greece, leading to massive civil unrest, but it generally only happens to countries that owe money in a foreign currency they cannot print themselves. Most governments choose between two other difficult paths. They might slash public services and hike taxes all at once to stop the bleeding, or they might print more money to create inflation, which makes the debt easier to pay back but makes everything more expensive for citizens. But there is a more successful precedent. After World War II, the United States carried massive debt, but the economy grew so quickly that the debt eventually became a much smaller part of the overall picture. The country essentially grew its way out of the problem. Because the US dollar is the world's primary currency, the country is unlikely to face a sudden collapse. Instead, it faces a menu of politically difficult choices about how to manage its balance sheet over the coming decades. This $36 trillion number eventually finds its way into your own life. It changes the cost of borrowing money for regular people. When the government borrows trillions, it creates competition for available cash. This drive for capital pushes interest rates higher on everything from your personal mortgage to your car loan. There is also the long-term cost for taxpayers. To cover today's spending, future generations will likely see some combination of higher taxes and fewer public services as the interest payments continue to climb. The national debt acts as a steady drain on the nation's purchasing power, making it more expensive to build a financial future. Understanding how it actually works is the first step toward protecting your own.